Welcome and bienvenue. Welcome. You let me do this. Welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the Doctor Who Hit or Miss podcast. I am joined, as always, that feels good to say, by Mike. Hello, Mike, the regular host.
Hello there. I have handed the reins to Andy for a little bit, and I'm already regretting it.
I knew you would. And joining us this week is our special guest, Abbie! Hello! I'm just, because I'm very bad at this, I'm just double checking what your Twitter handle is. Hoovian Girl 19, there we go.
Yeah.
I knew I had it there, but yes, Abbie is joining us this week.
Yeah, that's girl with a U, so it's Hoovian Girl, as I like to say at 19.
Yeah, because I wanted to be a bit edgy or whatever. You know, internet lingo.
We always strive for edgy.
Yeah.
And yes, so, should we just get right into the news, I guess? Or do we tell them what we're reviewing first this week?
No,
we should tell them.
Oh, well, can do. Yeah, go for it. It's your
So, yeah, this week we will be reviewing the Tom Baker serial and one of my most memorable classic episodes, just 'cause it was one of the first ones I watched, The Ark in Space.
Yeah.
But yes, so we're going to start with the news. As of the date that this will be going out, it will be the 21st of Sunday.
The 21st of Sunday?
21st of Sunday! Sunday the 21st of February is what I meant to say there. Into the Dalek guest star Zawe Ashton, who was Journey Blue in that episode, has landed a Hollywood role in the sci-fi world. She is confirmed to be playing the as yet unnamed villain of the second Captain Marvel film for Marvel Studios.
Woo, Marvel.
Of course you're happy about that. She joins the ranks of What As If Mars guest star Gemma Chan, who played Minerva in the original Captain Marvel film, and of course Karen Gillan, Amy Pond, who plays Nebula in multiple films across the Marvel franchise, including the upcoming Thor, Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Is that the film that we saw a picture of her on set for earlier, like a week or so ago?
Yeah, they're all filming in Australia because they're better off than most of us because they're not quite. idiots.
Australia are partying and everything now. They've basically got life back to normal.
Yeah, we should have said up front as well that we've got a bit of an international flavour, which I guess explains Andy's intro because Abbie's joining us all the way from Canada.
Yeah.
That intro was just because I want us to be a dick and annoy you.
No, that's a shame. I thought, like, when you veered into French, I was like, ooh, French Canadian, maybe there's a little bit of.
I wish I had that forefront, foreknowledge. Anyway, next bit of news. There are 3 main bits. The second one, hello, sweeties. Actress Alex Kingston has written a new Doctor Who book that will be released later this year. The book will feature her famous character River Song and River's fictional alter ego Melody Malone. It will be titled The Ruby's Curse, and the synopsis is as follows. Let me put on my posh voice. She's got ice in her heart and a kiss on her lips. 1939 New York. Private Eye Melody Malone is hired to find a stolen ruby, the Eye of Horus. The ruby might hold the secret to the location of Cleopatra's tomb, but everyone who comes into contact with it dies. Can Melody escape the ruby's curse? In 1939 New York, River Song, author of the Melody Malone series, is forced to find a reality-altering weapon, the Eye of Horus. River doesn't believe in curses, but is she wrong? From the top security confines of the Storm Cage to the barbarianism?
Oh, it was going so well.
of first century Egypt, River battles to find the Eye of Horus before its powers are used to transform the universe. To succeed, she must team up with a most unlikely ally, her own fictional alter ego, Melody. And they, together, must solve another mystery. Is fiction changing into fact, or is fact changing into fiction? Ruby's Curse is Alex Kingston's first Doctor Who novel and is released following the successful Doctor Who adventures written by actors Tom Baker, who wrote Scratchman, and Sophie Aldred, who wrote At Childhood's End, and is featuring the Fourth Doctor and Ace, respectively. Alex said, having absolutely no idea of the journey I would be taking with River when I first uttered the words, hello, sweetie, I cannot begin to express how excited I am to be able to continue not only River, but Melody's adventures on the written page. A sassy private detective and a time-travelling archaeologist joining forces to solve a mystery. What's not to love? The novel is released in hardback on the 20th of May 2021 and is available to pre-order now. It will also be released as an audiobook read by Alex Kingston herself.
Woo.
So thoughts on that?
I'm really excited
That's
about
really
this.
cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea about it until today, but it does sound freaking awesome because Alex Kingston is awesome.
Yeah,
she's cool.
I'll try and find a link, but she actually herself did like a trailer, which was her discussing it and everything for about 30 seconds. And she sounds really excited about it. And
if it was her idea to write it as well, that kind of goes to show how much she loves that character.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what gets me more excited is that I love the character of River, but I was like, right, let's leave it behind now. I didn't think there would be an angle that you could take. But the sound of this synopsis, I'm actually really excited for it. So.
Yeah, sounds cool.
If anyone was going to write River Song apart from Stephen Moffat, I'm glad it's Alex, because arguably her and Stephen know the character the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with that. And I love the character, so always going to be great to see more of her. That's also coming out near my birthday, so
cool.
Wait a month and I'll be able to get that for my birthday, hopefully.
Awesome.
Anyway, final bit of news. Big Finish have finally announced a new series featuring the Lone Centurion, aka the Auton Rory Williams, played once again by Arthur Darvill, who played him on screen. The series synopsis reads as follows. The legend tells of the Lone Centurion, a mysterious figure dressed as a Roman soldier who stood guard over the Pandorica, warning off those who would attempt to open it, a constant warrior whose story appeared in the folk history of a dozen civilizations. Only, he seems to have misplaced it. Travelling to Rome in search of the Pandorica, Rory finds himself forced to perform as a gladiator in the Colosseum, where he attracts the attention of the imperial household. The Centurion from Ledworth will face Emperor's assassins and certain death, if only he wasn't immortal, this April. The series will consist of 3 stories, Gladiator by Dallan Llewellyn, The Unwilling Assassin by Sarah Ward, and I, Rorius by Jacqueline Rayner. It's available to pre-order on CD or digital copy now at the Big Finish website.
That's really cool.
I'm sure I've heard of a couple of those writers' names before. I'm just going to double check.
Yeah, Jacqueline Rayner's a fairly famous author of various things, but she's definitely done Doctor Who books before.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the others. What was it? Daniel Llewellyn?
She's done Daniel Llewellyn, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, she's done The Stone Rose, which was very good.
Mm-hmm.
She did The Last Dodo, which I think I've read. She's done a lot.
Yeah.
But I very, very vividly remember The Stone Rose, though.
Cool.
And then I'll just double check the other 2. Maximize, thank you. So it was Daniel Llewellyn.
I would guess they're Big Finish writers, probably, because they usually keep things in-house.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Oh, no, that's the character of Daniel Llewellyn. I want the writer.
Wow.
I feel bad because I sent you this news section and I'm only just realizing how long I made it, and it's such a mouthful for you.
I'm gonna look up what books. Nothing is coming up. I'm very confused.
Maybe it's first time writer. It could be. You never know.
That'd be cool.
While you're doing that, I'll just chime in and say that I'm not as super interested in the Big Finish stuff. I think it's cool if you are. It's a weird section of Doctor Who that I never thought we'd really explore because it's just randomly in between that Series 5 2-part finale. But if you're into sort of ancient Roman stuff, I guess it would interest you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really give my thoughts on that story yet. However, personally, I will say it is something I'd be interested in reading, possibly.
Well, listening to, because it's an audio thing. Big Finish.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. You don't need to get pedantic with me.
All right, jeez. Yeah. give him a bit of power and he gets carried away.
Nah. You're cool.
No, that's fair. Well, so is that all of the news that you had?
Yeah. They're the main bits of news that have come out in the Doctor Who universe this last week, which is better than last week because there was naff all.
Well, we did get to congratulate Will, who started this whole podcast on his place at university. So, yeah,
very true. He'll be up to his knees in debt in weeks.
Speaking of which, he contacts me. He's contacted me a lot via Discord because he's currently watching Doctor Who from the start.
Nice.
He says he's bored. He's finished all of his college work. So this week he's messaged me about like everything from, let's see, I think it was everything from the Dalek invasion of Earth through to the Romans. He's given me his review of and asked me my opinion. So yeah, if you're interested, hit up Will and he'll be happy to tell you.
No, you know what you should have done just to really piss him off? You should have gone, "Oh, wait till we do it on the podcast."
I almost did. I was like, "Do you really want me to do that just in case?" But yeah, no, he was nice enough to give me his.
Speaking of which, has he given you his score for this week's review?
He gave me the scores for every episode we're covering.
Oh, he has done every episode. Cool, awesome,
nice.
Except he better not have done the one that he's actually going to be on.
No, he hasn't. He just wrote LOL because he knows that I know what he thinks of that story.
I mean, you also know what I think of that story, so...
Yes, and you both know that I'm just going to be getting attacked for a solid 2 hours, probably. So.
And I'm not going to stop it. I'm just going to spam Kylie Minogue gifts at you, and you can...
Yes, indeed.
That's great.
That's if that becomes the running joke of this series.
It already is the on-running joke of this series.
Oh, bless.
You're aware of Kaylee now.
Yes, Kaylee Manoogle. If anybody's interested, just hashtag, what is it? Hashtag
Pop sensation.
Hashtag pop sensation, Kaylee Manoogle. Just look it up on Twitter if you get a minute, everyone.
It's just me and my boyfriend being absolute dimwits on Twitter.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's hilarious.
That's the news. That's the news.
Awesome. Well, I will step in and take over then. That's very well done, Andy, on that little bit of hosting. We might give you more to do next week. But without any further ado, it's time for Canada's favourite section. It's time for On This Day. Woo! So, just getting straight into it. This day is February the 21st when you're listening to this. So we'll start with the births. So on this day in 1900, Sidney Arnold was born. He played Cedric Perkins in The Highlanders. He would be 121, obviously, this year. In 1924, George Selway was born, and he played George Meadows in The Faceless Ones. He sadly passed in 1994. I like that story. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Awesome. In 1928, Norman Taylor was born. It's an interesting one. He was the BBC technician who discovered the Howl Round effect, which has been used to one degree or another in the original Doctor Who title sequence. He passed away in 2011, but yeah, it's a crazy story. If you've never actually seen it, do look it up. The story of how they basically pointed 2 cameras against each other, and that creates that weird Howl Round effect that is the opening credits for the first Doctor Who's.
I feel like I've seen something about that before.
I think it might even be part of the Adventure in Space.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we owe a debt to that chap, definitely.
Yeah.
It's sad that the best thing Mark Gatiss ever wrote for Doctor Who was not even a Doctor Who story. It was like a telling of history.
It's equally sad that you can't pronounce his name properly.
Sorry, Mark Gatiss. I'm Northern.
Yeah.
I mean, so are you, but like...
Yes, quite so.
You're not Yorkshire.
Yes, I pity Abbie trying to understand our accents, to be honest. At the minute.
I can understand you guys. Besides, I'm Northern too, since I'm up in North America.
That's very true.
True. Wait, which part of Canada? Like, which state?
Alberta.
Alberta, okay.
Yeah, not north, but I am up north.
You're not in the Yukon. You're not in the Yukon.
No. That'd be cold.
I know nothing about geography. My entire knowledge of Canada comes from How I Met Your Mother and Northern Exposure. So that's...
Wow. Yeah.
Your entire knowledge of Canada is Robin Schabotsky.
More or less, yeah. Well, she is Canada's most famous export, no? I mean, unless the TV lied to us.
Let's go to the mall, everybody! Anyway.
Moving on. In 1931, the actor Kenneth Seeger was born, and he played a Cyberman in The Tomb of the Cybermen, which is easily one of my top 3 Cyberman classic stories, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. In 1964, Adrian Schiller was born. He played Uncle in The Doctor's Wife. One of my favorite.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a kind of a small role, but in possibly one of my top ever Doctor Who stories. So cool.
It's good.
In 1957, the actor, this is a great name, Van Epperson, was born, and he played an archivist in the Torchwood episode, The New World, but we won't hold that against him. I suppose it's a job.
Is that Miracle Day?
Yeah, that's the first episode of Torchwood Miracle Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that particular season, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, in 1964, excuse me, the actor Hugh Higginson was born, and he played the school teacher Miss Cunningham in the Sarah Jane Adventures stories, The Day of the Clown and The Mark of the Berserker.
Cool.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember that character.
Yeah, again, not a huge character, but it's all work. It's great. In 1980, the actress Elise Dutoit, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, Elise Dutoit, maybe? I'm not sure. I know as having played Izzy in Hollyoaks when I was a young lad. People around my age will know exactly what I'm talking about. She was a bit of a heartthrob. She played Miss Dexter, though, in 42 and The Sound of Drums. She was the attractive blonde woman, if you're curious.
I would pronounce that Dutoit. I pronounce it Dutoit.
There you go. Makes sense. Okay, so yeah, switching to just a little bit of sad news. We'll move to the deaths in this day. We'll get a little bit morbid, unfortunately, but
Mike's pronunciation of French.
Also pretty bad. Yeah, tell me about it. Anyway, on this day in 1981, we lost Ron Grainer, who, of course, was the composer and writer of the original Doctor Who theme. He's still credited to this day, so much respect to Ron Grainer.
Yeah.
That's such a nice thing that he still gets credited for it, even after all the remixes and everything.
Yeah, it's also equally kind of controversial and kind of crappy that Delia Derbyshire doesn't get any credit anymore when she kind of arranged it, so to speak. But I think people know who she is anyway. So
yeah.
But anyway, in 2005, Walter Henry passed away. He was a background actor who had numerous roles in Doctor Who, and there are a lot. I couldn't even list them. It went on and on. But he was only credited for one role, and that was a Primord in Inferno. But hey, if you're going to get credited, that's a brilliant story, in my view.
Yeah.
In 2012, we lost the director, Michael Hart, who directed The Space Pirates, which, as I've said, I like, but I think I'm very much in the minority.
Yeah, I think so. That's unfortunate, though, especially since it's missing, you know?
Yeah, well, there's one episode, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like the recon of it, but I'm weird like that. Sometimes the recon just takes me out of it, this kind of telesnap version. And sometimes I like it. Like, I liked the version of the Faceless ones that I saw that was just that before I even saw the animated one, which was like, oh, wow, awesome. Yeah, but I'm rambling. And finally, on Doctor Who's 50th anniversary year of 2013, we lost the designer, Raymond Cusick, who I'm sure everybody listening will know, designed notably the Daleks. So pretty iconic in Doctor Who circles.
Yeah.
So that gets all of the sadness out of the way. So I'll move on to the final piece, which is the releases from this day. And I will just add that these are basically the same stories that we've been discussing every week, because it's just different parts of the same story. So me and Andy have given our opinions, but I will just throw to you, Abbie, if that's cool, just for what you think of these stories.
Okay.
So on this day in 1970, episode 4 of Doctor Who and the Silurians was first broadcast.
Interesting. It's not a bad introduction for them, but even though the design of them hasn't aged too well, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you have a chance, I think it's going around the internet on Twitter and stuff. There's memes of what Madame Vastra and Jenny kissing would look like if they'd stuck with the original Silurian design.
I don't think I want to look at those.
It's so funny. And yeah, you're still with us.
I'm with you, yeah.
Okay, I was scared you dropped out there.
Sorry, no, I just learned that Phil left my tea bag in my tea and I'm livid.
That is the most British sentence you've ever said.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
That would be annoying, though, yeah.
The amount of things that you've mentioned that you're fine with, but, leave a tea bag in. No, I'm not having it.
I nearly made a very inappropriate joke.
No. Do not go there. I'll move us quickly on. In 1976, episode 4 of The Seeds of Doom was first broadcast, the Tom Baker story.
Nice.
Like that one, Abbie?
That's a good one.
It's very good,
very intense. Yeah, it's cool. I like the villains. I like the concept of it. I like how scary it is. That kind of stuff. It's well made, too.
It's Thor and Sarah. Like, when does that not work?
Yeah, they're a pretty good pair. They have good friendship and chemistry between them.
Oh, cool. I keep getting grief because I haven't seen it yet. And everybody that's kind of heard the first 2 episodes that we've done has said, just watch it. But I'm trying to go in order. But now I'm seriously thinking, because I hear good things, like such good things from everyone, that I'm thinking, should I just leap ahead and watch that? So I'm contemplating it for sure.
Yeah.
And finally, for actual releases, in 1981, episode 4 of The Keeper of Traken was first broadcast.
Interesting.
You seen that one or no?
Yeah, I've seen all the classic Who episodes, but
awesome. Wow, okay. Well,
yeah, it took me a while.
Okay, awesome. Sweet.
Keeper of Traken is the one with the master in it, right?
Yeah, it's when he possesses Tremus to get his new.
Yeah. That was interesting, but it wasn't until the last little bit where he does possess Tremus that it got really intense. I found anyway. Even though it was kind of interesting how Crispy and his TARDIS and stuff were kind of intermingled throughout there, but it built the suspense really well, but it wasn't too memorable outside of that. Yeah. Aside from Nyssa, of course.
Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, we like Nyssa, I think.
Yeah, she's sweet.
Awesome. And just finally for the On This Day, and then we'll get into the hit or miss section. This isn't releases, it's things that were in production. But again, Andy and I have given our thoughts, and there's only 2. So I'll just ask you, Abbie. In 1964, The Wall of Lies was recorded at Lime Grove. That was an episode of the Marco Polo serial. That's sadly
nice. It's unfortunate that all the episodes are missing, because that story in particular is very interesting.
Okay, fair enough.
I like how even though it's kind of difficult to tell, I like Susan's relationship with the Chinese girl. I kind of forget her name, but I do know who she is.
Is it Cho Ping or something? It's something
like that, because she's Chinese or whatever. So yeah.
And that's the most interesting part of the story, I think, for me, is her relationship with Susan.
It's very sweet, yeah. And awesome. The bad guy isn't too memorable, but he does his job well enough.
Yeah, I personally think I prefer the Aztecs in terms of kind of pure historical.
Yeah, I do too, but Marco Polo is I still find it kind of interesting.
Awesome, sweet. And finally, in 1969, we've already discussed episode 1 of The Space Pirates was recorded at Lime Grove Studios D. This was notably the last time Studio D was ever used by the Doctor Who production team.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Space Pirates isn't too bad, but since most of it's missing, it's kind of hard to judge it. And it's interesting, but not too memorable, I found. I don't recall too much about it. Other than the magnet scene, I think.
Yeah. There's a couple of stereotypes that are way too broad when they're like, we get it, you're kind of mimicking the Old West prospector kind of idea, but a couple of them are too broadly written. But I'm just a sucker for anything that's kind of sci-fi doing a different genre. So I think that's why I like the Space Pirates, and I like Curse of the Black Spot that a lot of people don't like as well. But yeah, anyway.
I don't get on the hate for Curse of the Black Spot, but
yeah, it's not too bad.
We'll maybe have to chuck it on the list to review sometime, Andy. Excuse me. So yeah, if that covers all that, we'll go on to the hit or miss section. Making good time. So just 5 between you this week. So if you don't know, Abbie, what we do, I'll just basically call out something from the worlds of Doctor Who, and then I'll go to you first as the guest to give your opinion of whether you think it's a hit or a miss, then to Andy for his opinion, and then to me and my lovely co-host, the soundboard, who I'll try and pull up now, because people have come to expect it, I think, at this point. So, so there we go, Doctor Who soundboard. So the first one on my hit or miss section for this week is the character of Gwyneth for The Unquiet Dead. So what do you think of Gwyneth, Abbie?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they kind of tied her into Gwen because she was played by the same actress.
Yeah.
And I felt a little sad when she died, and kind of died for nothing, sort of, because they turned out to be bad guys anyway. You know, like the ghost things.
The Gelf, yeah.
The Gelf.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I wasn't too attached to her, but it was still kind of depressing.
I think it was kind of a nice ending. Yeah. It was kind of heroic in its own way, but yeah. So would you say the character was a success, a hit, or not so much?
I'd say it's a hit because it wasn't like she was annoying or anything.
No, definitely not. And we know Eve Miles is a good actress. So
yeah.
All right, hit. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think she's a hit.
We know how much you hate Eve Miles, of course. So.
Oh yeah. Terrible lady. No. I love you, Eve Miles. I love you. Please don't take that out of context. I really like Gwyneth. I think she works really well. I like the fact that she ended up being tied into Gwen Cooper. Unquiet Dead, I think, is actually quite underrated as an episode.
Yeah.
And I think her character is one of the most enjoyable parts of the episode, probably for me. Cool. So she's definitely a hit for me, rather than just like a soft hit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very high hit. Okay. And I will say to Gwyneth.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's a hit from me, definitely. I didn't even think about the whole spatial genetic multiplicity, as they call it, thing, which is a really nice tie-in that they didn't have to do for Gwyneth and Gwen, being both from Cardiff and stuff, which is nice. But I also think Eve did a great performance. And again, I like that character. It's kind of the tragic hero from horror, which is what the Unquiet Dead is. I think it's showing what Doctor Who can be, because we've had kind of present day alien invasion, we've had future story, and then I agree, the Unquiet Dead, highly underrated. Probably one of Mark Gatiss' top stories for me.
I agree that it's probably arguably his best one.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
See, I like his Ice Warrior story, but that's just me.
Which one? He's done two.
Both Cold War and Empress of Mars.
Yeah, fully enough, actually, I would say his top 3 scripts are The Unquiet Dead and then Cold War and Empress of Mars.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. They're pretty good.
Sweet. Well, so that's 3 hits for Gwyneth and for Eve Miles. So the number 2 thing for this week is the character of Leela, played by Louise Jameson. So Abbie, Leela, hit or a miss?
Hit. She's great.
Oh, wow, that's a very enthusiastic hit.
Yeah, and she's a different kind of companion, which is part of her charm. Like, she's not civilized. She's pretty hasty. She will kill people if they're being annoying, or she'll threaten to kill people if they're annoying. And she has killed people if they've actually threatened her or the Doctor. So she's very different in terms of being a companion, but she's still really cool. That's part of her charm. It makes her very memorable, I find.
I love hearing people enthuse about their favorite characters. That's awesome. So, what do you think? What do you think of her ending then, in terms of just staying behind on Gallifrey?
Well, it's both. And on TV, it's a miss because it was a little abrupt and kind of weird.
Yeah.
But in terms of Big Finish, which you said you weren't really into, but I am, so it leads into some really cool stories and stuff. So in terms of Big Finish, it's a hit.
Awesome.
So it's kind of both.
Sweet, but so for the character of Leela, I'm guessing you'd say very high hit. You'd love that character.
Yeah,
awesome.
She's cool.
Awesome, Andy. What are your thoughts?
Again, she's a hit. I liked her in the episodes that I have seen her in, and kind of touching on what Abbie said, I do like the fact that she's a different kind of companion, both in her origins as well. Like, she's not just a human picked up out of a normal city or anything like that. Like, she's a tribeswoman. And I think it gives her a more interesting character. And I like, again, kind of like what Abbie said, I like the fact that as morbid as this is going to sound, I quite like the fact that she has violent tendencies, because again, it's different for a Doctor Who companion.
Exactly.
And Louise Jameson is great. So hit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So that's 2 strong hits, and I will also say,
well, yes, tick.
Yeah, also super strong hit. Louise Jameson is just the loveliest lady by all appearances on social media and interviews and stuff. But I like the character of Leela because she had the thankless task of being the next companion after Sarah Jane, and yet she is so different as to give you that nice counterpoint, without being like as if she's different because there's anything wrong with Sarah Jane, so to speak. The only issue I have is kind of the same with you, Abbie. The ending that she gets is a little bit abrupt and kind of doesn't fit the character. I know of her Big Finish stuff, but I haven't heard any of it, but that intrigues me at least. So I should say I haven't heard any of the stuff after she kind of got left behind Big Finish, but I have heard stories that take place during her travels with the Fourth Doctor when she's still great.
Cool.
I listened to Energy of the Daleks that she's in, and it's actually a really good story.
Yeah,
so,
I've listened to the whole first 7 series of the Fourth Doctor Adventures.
Oh, wow. You are just the most dedicated. Do you want to take over the podcast?
No, thanks. I'm not very good at leading. You're doing a good enough job anyway.
In future weeks, you've just seen everything. It's just going to be... Maybe you start your own Big Finish one, because nobody's...
That'd be interesting. I kind of like to, but I'm not... It's kind of nerve-wracking, so I mostly stick to written and stuff and just listening to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I would definitely be interested to hear it, though, because Big Finish is the sort of thing where I kind of want to know what to dive into, and it's so daunting to start from the beginning and just go through. So
I just stick to what you like and try to find something that Big Finish is done with that.
I tend to do that.
It's not in the middle of something.
I either do that or I just look for what's on sale.
Yeah, that's a good starting point too.
Awesome. All right, cool. So that's 3 strong hits again for Leela. The third thing on my list is
just a quick question, just because I've forgotten. How many seasons did Leela do? Because it wasn't that many, was it? Because she came into it in Face of Evil, which is season 14.
She did 2, 14 and 15, because then 16 was the key to time.
Well, 1.5, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much 1.5.
Yeah, definitely. She didn't join till Face of Evil, so yeah, 1.5.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that's weird when you think she made a lot of an impact, because it didn't, until you mentioned that, it didn't occur to me that, that's not that long of a run.
She wasn't in it for that long, really.
Yeah.
That's why Big Finish exists.
It's weird, though, because I think she's in a lot of my favorite stories, and they kind of must all be grouped together, because obviously I love the talons of Weng Chiang, racism aside from that. I love Horror of Fang Rock. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Face of Evil's pretty good. Robots of Death's pretty good. So I don't think she has a bad story as such in her era. So
yeah.
Oh, well, fair enough. As I said, number 3 on the list is a grouping together, similar to what we did last week, Andy, when I said the New Year episodes taken as a whole. And this time it is multi-Doctor stories as a whole. So what I'm basically thinking here is the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, the 2 Doctors, and the Day of the Doctor, and anything else you may want to consider if you want to throw it in. So, Abbie, what do you think of multi-Doctor stories on the whole? Hit or miss?
I'd say they're usually a hit, but it depends on how you pull it off. Like, Day of the Doctor worked because of the whole 50th anniversary thing and the fact that they got John Hurt in there, which is kind of a bit of a curveball, but it's still interesting. And even though it kind of sucked they didn't get Christopher Eccleston or Paul McGann be able to, make full appearances.
Yeah.
It would have been nice, but at least Paul McGann, we saw him regenerate, so that's something.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah, 3 Doctors is a nice little celebration of the 10th or 15th anniversary, something like that. I think 10th. It was the 10th.
It was actually it actually aired, I think, either a year before or a year after, but it is the 10th anniversary story.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, especially since it introduced Omega, who's a pretty influential villain and stuff like that.
Oh, yes. Tell me you're a fan of Omega. Nobody else is, and I love that character.
Yeah, Omega's pretty cool.
Oh, awesome. I love that performance, I think, as well. Just Stephen Ford's kind of exasperated, I don't exist, which I can't do justice to, but it's a great moment.
Yeah. And the 5 Doctors is interesting, but it had a lot going for it and stuff like that, so it can be a little hard to follow sometimes because there's so much in it. But I do like the little gags and stuff like that in there, and even though Brose's turn to the dark side or whatever is kind of weird.
Yeah, it does come kind of out of left field, I guess. Yeah,
especially since he's supposed to be a friend of the Doctor's, so it's a little odd. And I like how it introduced Rassilon, even though he wasn't really a villain back then. And I like how it combined a bunch of different companions, but again, they didn't really have much to do, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it was probably a little bit too ambitious, but that's I'll go into that when I give my thoughts. And finally, so what about the 2 Doctors then in that case?
It's kind of both a hit and a miss because it's kind of weird for an anniversary story, but I do like Patrick Troughton and Colin Baker together.
I don't even think it is an anniversary story, to the best of my knowledge. It just happens to be a multi-Doctor story because I don't think it falls on an anniversary. I know that Silver Nemesis is an anniversary story, which obviously isn't.
Which is ironic because the next story is a Dalek one. And it takes place in 1963 and at Coal Hill too.
Yeah, we'll get into that because we're reviewing it later. But yeah, Remembrance of the Daleks seems way more of an anniversary celebration than Silver Nemesis does.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, not putting words in your mouth, but I would say overall, you're definitely going to say hit for multi-Doctor stories then.
Yeah, it'd be very much a missed opportunity if they never did it.
Yeah, cool. Andy, thoughts?
Yeah, hit, definitely. Day of the Doctor is phenomenal. I think I mentioned in the last season that I've not really seen the 2 Doctors, but I've heard kind of mixed things. The 5 Doctors was interesting. I didn't dislike it, but I don't think it was brilliant either. And I've seen bits of the 3 Doctors because I know for a fact I've seen bits of Omega in it. Because I'm very well aware of who Omega is, and what I saw was very good. And Omega does seem like a very fun villain. I should really see more of him. I think we can agree that the best multi-Doctor story is Dimensions in Time.
We must certainly cannot.
I just wanted to say that to annoy you.
That's the reason I didn't even mention that one.
Just as a concept, yes, multi-Doctor story is an absolute hit. Because, again, like Abbie said, it'd be a completely missed opportunity to not do them if you're going to have this whole mechanic of being able to have different actors playing the same character, it makes sense for the different incarnations to meet, especially
Especially
given
with time travel.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, especially with the inherent nature of the time travel of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, well, I'll give my thoughts then, and I will see.
Absolutely fantastic.
I think they're great. It's not even like they're really a mixed bag. There's only one weak link among them, and that's the two doctors. Unless you want to count Dimensions in Time, which is terrible, but it's at the point where I'm loath to criticize it because I know it has fans who appreciate it's just crapness. It's kind of
so bad it's good.
Yeah, it's the room of Doctor Who stories, really, isn't it? So but no, I love all of the multi-doctor. I love three doctors.
Now I'm just picturing Tommy with Zawe in Dimensions in Time.
Oh, hi, Big Ron.
Oh wow, that's very weird.
Sorry about that. But yeah, as I say, I adore the three doctors. The five doctors, I agree that it's such a good story, but it suffers from being overrated because everyone, like, I resent everyone giving it like 10 out of 10s and stuff when I feel more like it's good, but is it really that good, or is it just kind of nostalgia a little bit? Which isn't a criticism. It's a fantastic story, and the writing of it is brilliant. It's just a bit, as I said, maybe over ambitious in what it's trying.
Yeah.
Why? Because I don't remember. Why couldn't Tom Baker do it again?
He just didn't. He
just
kind
didn't
of
want to.
turned it down. He'd said that he hadn't really. There's all kinds of different sort of things that have been come out in interviews and stuff, but more or less he said it had been too soon since leaving the role, and he didn't really want.
Yeah, he was just burnt out. That's all.
Yeah, he didn't really want to come back so soon after just leaving, and there's other things that I won't get into, but you can look it up about what otherwise might have led to it and stuff. But yeah, it is kind of hilarious that the only photo shoot that involves all five doctors has the waxwork of Tom Baker.
Yeah,
pretty weird. But I mean, it kind of sucks that obviously by that point we'd lost Will Hartnell anyway, so it's not even like it's really the real first Doctor, unfortunately. But
I know.
It's for what it has to do, though. The story is great. Terrence Dicks is a brilliant writer, so the actual writing of it, I think, is brilliant. But two Doctors, I think, is, as I said, the weakest link. It's just a little bit too bizarre. But you know, it's half of a good story. Other than the Androgum stuff, I think it's pretty good. And yeah, Day of the Doctor we'll review at some point, I'm sure, but I can't say enough good things about that. So there we go.
Yeah, for everything Stephen Moffat had on his plate at the time, the Day of the Doctor really was like pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and I've meant to address as well. I completely agree with you, Abbie, about it was a shame that we didn't get Christopher Eccleston or even Paul McGann into that role. But at the same time, now that we've seen it, I would not lose John Hurt. Because he's such a good actor, and because we've kind of he passed away not long after, and it's kind of a weird sort of point of pride as a Doctor Who fan that I'm like, whenever somebody mentions legendary actor John Hurt and all the movies and stuff, I can always kind of think to myself, he played the Doctor. You know what I mean?
At least it wasn't through the BBC's lack of trying that they didn't get Christopher Eccleston either.
Oh, not at all. No, but I agree. I mean, I think there would be nothing stopping Stephen Moffat writing in Paul McGann to that role. He brought him back to do It's a shame. But anyway, I'm taking way too long. Sorry, I'm rambling. Number 4 on our list today is the character of Adric. Oh, this could get weird. Abbie, what do you think of Adric?
I don't hate him, but he's mostly a miss because he was kind of written inconsistently. And he wasn't utilized properly, I found, which is unfortunate because he could have been interesting.
Okay. So what do you have like a favorite or a least favorite story of his, or not at all?
Like, he's fine in his beginning, but I suppose the one where they're on the ship with the Greek people, all the past historical people. Yeah. And he was acting like an idiot because he was believing everything the villains were saying, and even Nissa told him to shut up. That was probably my least favorite one because it was dumb. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. You've got to respect his the way he was written out, though, surely.
Yeah, it was emotional.
Yeah, good story as well. Good story. So you're going to say probably soft miss at least for Adric.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Fair enough. And you, Andy?
Yeah, from what I've seen, he's kind of a miss. The stories of his that I have seen him in, he's just kind of an annoying brat for a lot of it, at least in my opinion. It's kind of ironic that arguably his best appearance is when he gets obliterated. But that is a good story. So yeah.
Well, maybe that was just the rule they had at the time. If you've got Adric, you've got to kill him. You know.
They didn't have reactors at the time, you know.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have Kylie Minogue coming on for
No.
Bless. Well, the best sort of soundbite that I can find to sum up Adric is this.
I'm being extremely clever up here, and there's no one to stand around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all?
Yeah,
that is surprisingly accurate.
I would be more lenient and say soft hit. There's probably a good chunk of the stories I haven't seen, but what I have seen, I think he suffers from what I will personally call Wesley Crusher syndrome, which is that he is supposed to be the smartest guy in the room and kind of the identification character for all of the nerdy boys that are watching the shows, to be kind of like, oh yeah, well, cool. But yeah, written pretty terribly, because there's a way to write that, I'm sure, without it coming off quite as precocious. But yeah, I think he's fine. I think even in episodes like Kinder, which I like, he's pretty decent, or at least, not memorably bad. But because of the impact of Earthshock, I think I would veer into soft hit. But I certainly I don't object to the fact that, as a whole, the podcast will declare him a miss, because, 2 misses and 1 very low hit, I think is probably fair enough. So the final one, the 5th and final thing that I wrote for today's hit or miss section, is the character of Miss Foster, aka Matron Cophelia, as played by Sarah Lancashire in Partners in Crime, the Adipose episode. So, Abbie, thoughts?
I think she's a hit because she did do her job well enough. Like, she's menacing, she's weird, she's kind of creepy, but she's funny at the same time. So it did work.
Yeah? You don't sound 100% sure?
No. She's not terribly memorable, but she still did her job well. So I do say hit.
Okay, so soft hit, I think, from you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And Jackie Weaver over there?
I have all the authority. I actually think she is quite memorable, but that's just because I think Sarah I can't say that.
Sarah Lancashire.
Thank you. I think Sarah Lancashire. I keep saying Lancashire.
Why did you try again?
I think Miss Sarah has a really good on-screen presence in pretty much everything she's in. So I feel like, even though it's kind of a basic character, really, I think her performance really kind of elevates it, and I love how. Even when things aren't going her way, she never loses her prim and proper businesswoman persona. I really like that. And Partners in Crime is just a very fun episode. So I'd definitely say a hit. Plus, she has a sonic pen. Come on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will just quickly chime in then and give my.
Absolutely fantastic.
I think she's great. The thing with me is, and it's something that didn't occur to me until just now, Abbie, I'm guessing you probably didn't know her from Coronation Street, from her role in the...
No, I don't like soap operas. They're just kind of weird for me.
I'm not even sure if that would have made it to Canada, to be fair. But
I know what it is, but I don't really watch soap operas or anything.
Yeah, well, I don't now, but at the time, obviously, when you grow up with your family, you watch whatever they watch. And she was so iconic as Raquel in Coronation Street, playing a completely polar opposite character, that I was so impressed with Matron Cophelia, because, just to clue you in, Abbie, the character she played in Coronation Street was very much the sort of bimbo, sort of dumb blonde, sort of, high-voiced stereotype. And yet, when she sort of played the villain in Doctor Who, she really let loose. I mean, she clearly relished it, because it's so different, and wasn't afraid to go big with it, which I always appreciate. It's why I kind of like Kate Mara as the Rani, even in Dimensions in Time as well.
Yeah.
One of my favourite moments of her in the episode is just after Donna and the Doctor finish that mime through the window, and rather than being angry or annoyed, she just so calmly just goes, "Am I interrupting you?"
That was great.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I think when we did the rewatch, because it was the only one I did recently, of when Emily Cook's doing the rewatches on Twitter, and I did the Partners in Crime one, and I was more impressed than I think I even remembered with that role, because I was like, that could easily have pushed a little bit too far to, it's hammy, or it could easily have been you're playing this way too serious.
It was surprisingly downplayed, given the kind of very silly nature of the story.
Well, I think it was played just enough, because if you downplayed it, you would end up thinking, why are you taking it so seriously? These are balls of crap,
I mean, compared to how campy she could have gone with it.
Oh yeah, especially like I said, knowing the character she played on Coronation Street, when the casting was announced, you would immediately think, oh, this is going to be terrible. She's going to be, eating the scenery and stuff. But she does, but in a good way, maybe. So
it's called Cold Ham.
Yes.
Not loud, but she's still hammy in her words and stuff.
Yeah, I love that term. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's from TV tropes.
Awesome. Oh wow. I've learned something today, and I'm gonna take that with me, Abbie. Well done. Thank you. So no, that's brilliant. So that's the 5 hit or misses. So if that's everything, which it is, we will move on to the review, which, as we mentioned, this week is the Tom Baker story, The Ark in Space, which also, apparently coincidentally, is one of the first episodes, if not the first episode, that I saw, Andy. Weirdly enough.
Huh.
Cool. Yeah. Very
just
bizarre.
before we get into it, I just want to run and quickly refill my water, so I'll be like 2 minutes, if that.
No problem. Well, in that case,
Okay.
I'll take this chance to ask you, Abbie, what you remember your first exposure to Doctor Who being.
Before I watched it, it was the Yogg's cast.
Right.
Yeah, they're like a YouTube Minecraft player thing. And since
Oh,
they're
okay.
British, they kind of know what Doctor Who is. And so they did a Weeping Angels Minecraft mod showcase video, and that's kind of where I kind of got really introduced to the idea.
Okay.
But it took a few years later for me to like actually watch it on Netflix when it was on Netflix in Canada.
Okay. Fair enough. And you must have been through everything in super quick time then. That's awesome.
Yeah. It took a month and a week to catch up on Series 1 to Series 8 of New Who.
Uh-huh.
I missed out on like a Day of the Doctor, though, because it wasn't on Netflix, but I watched literally everything else.
Okay. Fair enough. And do you remember what your first story you ever saw was, just out of curiosity then?
It was Rose. I started with the new stuff, and then I went to the classic stuff later on.
I think a lot of people would have done that. That's really, I think I still maintain that's a really good starting point. I think particularly for North American fans who are used to a very specific type of show, I think introducing them at the start of New Who, I think is a much easier intro than the classic stuff. But and plus, obviously, people, I think, struggle to understand the missing episodes thing with the classics as well. Yeah. I know when Screen Junkies, which is a channel I watch, when they did the honest trailer for it, they were really baffled by the concept of how come there's episodes that don't exist, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so okay. So your first episode was Rose, and you were hooked from the start of the series.
Yeah, I watched 7 episodes in one day.
Oh, what, the first 7 of series 1?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that means you hit Dalek, which is the high point, if you ask me. If that's it. Awesome. And,
I have returned.
Welcome back, Andy. So just out of curiosity then, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just want to agree that Dalek and probably Empty Child Doctor Dance are the high points of Series 1.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And just last thing then, while doing this impromptu interview, who's your favourite Doctor, Abbie, if that's not too loaded a question?
No. It's Peter Capaldi is number 1, Paul McGann is number 2, and Colin Baker is number 3.
Wow.
It's mostly because of Big Finish that Paul and Colin are so high, though. If it was just TV, they wouldn't be so high.
Yeah, you definitely strike me as a Big Finish fangirl, if you don't mind me saying.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow, that's very unexpected, because most people have Colin Baker sort of dead last as well. But
like I said, if it was just TV, it wouldn't be as high, but Big Finish, he's great in.
And you don't have either of the sort of stereotypical answers, which are my two. I'm very basic bitch. It's Tennant followed by Tom Baker in my top 2. So, but yeah. Anyway, I don't think I've ever actually asked you yours, Andy, but I'm guessing I know who your top one is.
Okay, go on.
I'm guessing it's Matt Smith.
Maybe.
And then
Let's see if you can guess my top 5 Doctors.
Well, I'll go top 3, because come on.
Okay, see if you can do my top 3.
I'm gonna say it is Matt Smith, then Tennant, then Capaldi.
Matt Smith is number 1.
Yeah.
Then Capaldi.
Oh.
Then
Okay.
McCoy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Awesome. Fair enough. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
So-
they're really good. All Doctors are good.
They're all good in their own way. Absolutely. I don't
Funnily
think a bad one.
Funnily enough, weirdly, I've been thinking about it recently since we started doing the podcast. David would have been in my top 5, but I think Jodie may have beaten him out.
Cool.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I really, as hit and miss as the writing has been in her series, I think she's been consistently great.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's up
she's
there
cool.
for me, yeah. She's probably in my top 6, shall we say? But
That's kind of tricky, though.
I flip-flop a lot after the top 2. The top 2 are always David Tennant followed by Tom Baker. I love John Pertwee. I think he'd probably be 3rd at the moment. I won't go beyond that. So I've just noticed as well, Andy, that your initials with your Jackie Weaver gag also look like you're a Jodie Whittaker stand-up.
That's funny.
You've got JW on there.
Yeah.
Well, so that's covered that. So we'll go into the review properly. The arc in space, as I said, the Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane, Harry, and the Wirrn. So if you're not familiar with it, audience, and for you as well, Abbie, the way we do it is we will give a brief sort of log line, non-spoilery kind of thoughts. Then we'll get into the notes kind of chronologically, then give our conclusion and score. So Abbie, as the guest, did you want to go first and give your sort of initial synopsis log line for the episode?
Sure. Well, it's for like not an official synopsis. It's good. Like it's a very good foray into like Tom Baker and stuff. It's nice and suspenseful as well. Mm-hmm. Like it introduces the stakes at first, but then the bigger stakes get revealed later on, and I like how they show hints of it here and there. Yeah. It's nice.
Awesome. Andy, did you have a little log line? Kaylee Manoogle, I should say.
Just a very entertaining, very suspenseful episode story. Yeah. That makes use of the limited set it has.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is a little bit more involved. I said it's the first classic Doctor Who serial I ever saw, and classic is the right word. Arguably the pinnacle of the original show. It's my favorite classic Doctor and companions. It's a great sci-fi story that did Alien before Alien did, and it has a man in emotional turmoil because his hand has turned into bubble wrap. Quintessential Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, so without further ado, then we'll go straight into the actual episode. So the first note that I've made just regards the title sequence, because we've never really done any Classic Who or any Tom Baker stories. And I have just said, is it redundant maybe to say that this title sequence is iconic and it's just really cool?
Yeah, it is cool.
It's fantastic, to the point that I don't know if anybody here has seen it. The Family Guy Star Wars spoof actually has a little insert of it when they're talking about how traveling through hyperspace always looks really weird, and then it just cuts to the Tom Baker title sequence from Doctor Who. So I think it's one of those things that's sort of internationally recognized as being quite cool.
Cool.
But then we're into the episode proper. That was just my little digression. And we see Space Station Nerva, which I think is it's a decent effect shot at first, but then it starts to wobble kind of horribly. Which,
yes.
It's amusing in its own way, but while I think the design of the station is fantastic, it fares really badly when you get to anything like a close examination.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's a charm there, and I think in my mind's eye, I see exactly what they're going for, rather than necessarily always what's there. I like the basic concept, but yeah. So, what do you guys think of the station, shall we say, since it's first thing on screen, more or less?
Yeah, it's interesting in a little limited way, like you said.
Yeah, fair enough. And what about you, Andy?
I made my exact note was, oh wow, that space shot, which basically was me saying, given the time period, it makes sense that that's what they would have to do to make a shot like that. So I'm not I've tried to be fair to the effects in this episode, because obviously you've got to take the time into the time period into account and the budget and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even given the budget and everything, it just does not look good.
I don't think it's personally. Well, maybe it's just because I'm a defender of the story, but I don't think it looks terrible. Like I said, I get what they're going for, but because it is a model and it's clearly not even a particularly sort of big or detailed model, it very much is like, if this was a kid's toy of a space station, I'd be like, oh, cool, I get what you're going for. But kind of on-screen
it's definitely not the worst effect they've ever had. It's not Mark Gatiss CGI'd onto a scorpion.
Oh, good lord, no. I'm sure there probably is as well, because you can watch the story with optional CGI effect, but I didn't, because it loses a bit of charm, I think, if you do that on the classics. Anyway, so then we get straight into the very first thing we see is the color green, which I think becomes prevalent throughout the serial. Which I think is, for obvious reasons, kind of alien invasion, little green men kind of thing. We start with a point of view shot, which I think immediately sets up that this is going to be horror toned, maybe. And we kind of stalk the cryo chambers before we zoom in on one in particular. I think that whole scene, it's very brief, and it's the only kind of guest star in the episode is that extra who's in the cryo chamber. But I think it's there to point out that, this, it might look goofy, but we're doing horror, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Would you agree, yeah?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's kind of, like you said, the point of view shot and emphasizing horror is because we don't really see what it is.
Yes.
We just see and hear things. Like, and see its perspective and stuff, and that kind of is effective.
Yeah, it's basically the same shot as the original Halloween when that movie begins with Michael Myers murdering his sister, but we don't see it. We see it from his point of view, sort of. So I think you always immediately, when you're seeing things like that, and it's the nature of how it's stalking things, you're like, oh, this is,
it's creepy.
We're in the, yes, exactly, yeah, unsettling and creepy. We're in the mind's eye of something sinister. So yeah, cool. We have the TARDIS introduction, of course, which I think it's basic. It's obviously they didn't even bother with the sort of
fading in and out.
Fading in.
Yeah, that's what I made a note of. I literally just put, was the TARDIS already there and they just put lights on it?
Well, yeah, you can kind of tell that they're just bringing up the lights, but I will say that on the other hand, I think the use of lighting is super effective because
I think it works.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think the same thing as we get into this scene, the acting and the interaction between these three is perfect, flawless, can't fault it, A+. You know what I mean? That's there's only so many ways I can praise that, but I think like I said, this is probably for me is the absolute sweet spot of the best TARDIS team, the Fourth Doctor, Sarah and Harry. Yeah. So anything they do, I think, is awesome. So
yeah, I had the note of just their dynamic is instantly just really enjoyable and like you can tell they have really good chemistry already.
Yes, and of
even
course,
I was gonna say, well, if I remember rightly, this is like the first adventure Harry goes on, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, because you forget that basically he steps into the TARDIS at the end of Robot thinking it's just a regular police box, and then we kind of immediately cut here to they've already arrived, and it's said that he was being ham-fisted and knocked the controls, and that's why they ended up where they did, and he's kind of baffled by the whole thing, and it's quite telling, I think, that his immediate response is, "Whoa, you could make a fortune, Doctor, with this technology." It's a nice response as opposed to the kind of the usual like, "Wow, this is magical. We can do anything." And awesome. I did make a note of the Doctor checking the atmosphere with a yo-yo is a nice little character touch, but it's also something that came up again in Kill the Moon.
Yeah.
So I think it's always nice when you get a little continuity kind of flashback references like that, which is cool. When they arrive on the space station Nerva set, you might disagree with me here, especially you, Andy. I actually think the set's pretty awesome, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's just my nostalgia, but I just really love it. I think it looks. Yeah, it looks
Funny you mentioned that. I think I made a note of it later, but if not, if I did, I can just breeze over it. I actually said this exact same thing to Phil. I think with what they had to work with, they actually do it really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, when you look at, just as a random example, when you look at the original Star Wars, it's not a million miles away from this. It's very sort of clean white rooms, and obviously, they're just a soundstage or whatever at Pinewood. So I think, it's surprisingly good for 1975 television, So the next thing I put was a slight negative. I just said that it's unfortunate that Sarah Jane is slightly too damsel in distress in these opening scenes, but that Liz absolutely relishes just selling the danger while she's trapped and kind of suffocating. So I think, it's kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, her acting makes it worthwhile almost in a way.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the acting, but
not at all.
The writing not really giving her much to do to start with.
Yeah, and I mean, it's immediately corrected, as I'm sure I'll get into, because they almost realize, I think, the character isn't that way. But it's very much just the initial thing, and it's kind of like, oof, did you not really know? They didn't seem to know how to separate them and start the adventure, so it became very much like, oh, the ditzy girl wandered off kind of thing, which I don't love. But Harry specifically says he's always hated sliding doors, which was a line that strikes me as weird and hilarious on its own right. But then I've also made the note, what are you talking about? It's one of Gwyneth Paltrow's better movies. that was just for me. That just amused me.
It was better than the Goop documentary. I'll give it that.
Oh man, I was expecting a better response.
This is very off topic. Have any of you seen the Goop documentary? Because it's freaking nuts.
I have not.
We literally watched it for the meme.
No, I haven't. It's not the sort of thing that I would.
I
Necessarily...
don't actually watch it unless you're intending to watch it with someone to take the piss out of.
No, I don't really have any partner to watch something with ironically all the time. So...
Yeah.
Oh, bless. Oh, well, moving on. That's killed everything dead with my lame joke.
I can't remember if we skipped over it, but I had a note saying that I really like... I can never remember the Harry's actor's name. I'm terrible.
Ian Marter?
Yeah.
It is Ian, thank you. I really liked his performance when he realised that they had in fact travelled in time. I thought it was kind of... I don't know, I just thought it was kind of believable almost in a way.
Yeah, like...
and then...
what?
Yeah, and then alongside that, I also just had the note of saying, Tom is just such a delight.
Of course. Yeah, you were saying, Abbie, sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. I like the fact that that's the interaction, I think, between Harry and Tom. I didn't make this note, but I love the fact that, that the Doctor tells Harry they've travelled in time. Harry's immediate response is, oh, no. And the Doctor's response back is, what, you don't agree? Just very... just misunderstanding the situation and the
Tom's Doctor is quite sassy in this story. There are quite a few moments where he's very sassy.
Very much so, but that's Tom's Doctor, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's any other actor, I don't think would get away with it either. It would come off as that's really pompous, and I don't like it. But he has that absolute charm and that twinkle that you're like, oh, bless you. Anyway, the danger that we get into, I think, is a little bit arbitrary. But that's always been the case in Classic Who when you've got to stretch things across, various 25-minute episodes. So it's very much like, oh no, a door's closed, we have to get it open. What now? But I did say that at least the kind of sheared or bitten oxygen cables are setting up an intriguing mystery and the kind of horror plot point. So
yeah.
That's good. I should have said as well, by the way, Abbie, if you have any notes that we're going over where you've written or whatever, and you want to chime in, just do so.
Okay.
Just shout over, and we'll come to you. That'll be good. Yeah, the next note was just how I think they kind of immediately course corrected Sarah Jane, because I love that she's feisty enough that she has that great line, if you call me old girl again, I'll spit in your eye. And I was like, there she is. There's the Sarah Jane we know, bless.
Totally.
Awesome. Cool. Then we get the bit with the Doctor and Harry and the laser weapon, which I think it's a nifty little bit of sci-fi peril with a little clever solution. But for me, it does come off a little bit sort of... early 2000s kids TV game show kind of thing.
I found it quite funny. I enjoyed it. I thought they definitely were just padding out the runtime, but
of course.
Two things that I like about it is two things that I do like about it though are one, it was at least funny.
Yeah.
I think the comedy was played very well, and two, at least it kind of plays a role later. They didn't just leave and forget it. It did come back by the end. It's actually
weirdly vital, because that's how they work out that kind of electricity is the Wirrn's weakness, because the weapon got the queen, or whatever it would be called. So, yeah, I suppose it is vital, but it's also, like you said, it's just a nifty little bit of stuff. But I will say that I was really confused as to what they meant by kind of clarifying organic type things. And it took me a while to realize. I was like, oh, well, yeah, almost anything is organic in a way. Like the woolly scarf is organic because it's, sheep wool or whatever. And the cricket ball's organic because it's leather, I guess. And I was like, okay, I understand now. But I thought you had meant just sort of like inanimate objects are fine and living tissue is what you meant. But no, that's probably just me more than them.
I did also genuinely laugh out loud at the part where they're shuffling under the desk. It was so stupid, but I loved it.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great, man. Come on, be fair.
I think it's stupid, but I love it. I think it's really funny.
So then while all this is happening, obviously Sarah is she's getting exposition by voiceover, which I think is pretty clever if you're going to do it, and at least that's a nice way. But
it's better than just having a character stood there just explaining to her arbitrarily everything that's going on.
Yeah, and it also has one of the best named things in Doctor Who, which I've made a note of and said, hang on, it's telling her she sat on the Tranquilla couch. I was like, how long did that take Robert Holmes to think up? That was an immediate kind of, I'll do. It's obviously we get the Doctor doing the famous people name drop for Madame Nostradamus having made the scarf, which is very, I mean, in New Who in particular, that comes up a lot, name dropping famous people that they've met through time. So You get Sarah going. I've said, oh my gosh, Sarah's going through a mid-80s rock video through dry ice.
Yes.
I think it's supposed to be a trans map, but it's very much, Kate Bush 80s music video.
Just Liz Slading in Wuthering Heights.
Doctor, it's me, Sarah Jane. Anyway. I don't know why I did that.
Me neither.
Then they go out into the walkway, and I adore this walkway and windows kind of set.
Yeah.
The space geek in me, the sort of sci-fi nerd, can't see it negatively, even though I'm sure it's probably not flawless. And I know that, the stars are just kind of a blanket backdrop and whatever, but for whatever reason, it just sparks my imagination, and I think this particular set is just brilliant. So
Yeah.
Again, I think this is actually where I did make the note, but the for the budget they had, and I what was my exact note? For the budget, for the budget they had in the year it was done, the set is actually really well done. So yeah, I agree.
Cool. And then we get obviously a bit more hint of horror as Harry kind of finds the green slime and thinks he saw something out of the corner of his eye. Just to remind you, I think, because things are kind of it's setting up the heavy sci-fi, so it's just to remind you that we're in a horror story. Don't forget that kind of thing. I do find it hilarious that it's supposed to be like thousands, if not tens of thousands of years in the future, and all of historical record is on microfilm.
Yeah.
That's very much a 70s view of what we might have in the future, isn't it? Really? But yeah, I said that,
I did just on the note with the green slime. I did also put I do genuinely really like how they build the mystery across this 4-parter. Like even though there was some runtime padding, I do think the pacing in general is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And different story. I'll get to this later, but I do like the fact that different story beats aren't dwelled on too much, especially ones that are kind of obvious. Like that's something I'll get to later. But yeah, in general, I think the pacing's really quite good.
Awesome. And I said in this scene, I agree with the Doctor. He says it's fascinating when they reveal what the arc is, and I completely agree. I think it's brilliant. It's a reason I think that it's come up a few times since we've visited this kind of era of the Earth's been engulfed in solar flares, but humanity have survived. It's a brilliant sci-fi concept. I can't fault it. While they're wondering what's happened to the human species, and it leads to an ominous point of view shot, but then you get the reveal of it's actually a cryo chamber. And I do like it's on the behind the scenes rather than part of the episode, but I do like that they struggled to kind of fill all of the chambers and stuff, so they actually just use mirrors, so that when they open one of the doors to the chamber, it's just mirrors reflecting the same room multiple times, but it does make it look like there's like thousands of chambers.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really neat sort of, for all that we criticize kind of classic special effects, that was a rather ingenious kind of use of them. So, and then obviously in the middle of this scene, we get what is probably my favorite speech in all of Doctor Who, classic and you.
Wow.
And if you'll indulge me, I'm just going to read it out as is because I can't praise it enough.
I think I have the exact same line, but go on.
And that is this from the Doctor. Homo sapiens, what an inventive, invincible species. It's only a few million years since they crawled up out of the mud and learned to walk. Puny, defenseless bipeds. They've survived flood, famine, and plague. They've survived cosmic wars and holocausts. And now here they are, out among the stars, waiting to begin a new life, ready to outsit eternity. They're indomitable.
Yeah.
That almost always brings a tear to the eye. It's the show in a nutshell. I love it.
Yeah.
There's a reason I think it's iconic and many people's favorite.
Okay, it's not the exact line I had, but that speech is great, and I did make a note of saying Tom Baker here is just brilliant.
Oh, what was the line you had?
I think it's in the same scene. It's where I think it's when they start opening the pods up, maybe, and it's just the line that he says to Harry of look at them, like it's like all colours, all creeds, all differences finally forgotten.
It's my exact next line.
Yeah, I really liked that line.
Yeah, I said if only it's something. Talk about something to strive for. Again, that's perfect, isn't it? Really, you can't.
And again, for everyone who says Doctor Who has never been political before now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is after we've had the third Doctor's era, which is it's an entirely political era, really.
Yes.
Ignorance to it doesn't mean it isn't there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. The next note that I had was this is me being super pedantic, but who changed Sarah's clothes? She's in the cryo chamber.
I know, right?
I know.
She transmattered to the cryo chamber, presumably, but she's in their uniform. Like, what?
Yeah. I made the note of, did the clothes just dematerialize and then those appeared on her, or I was a bit confused how that worked.
I mean, we hand waved away, but it was just sort of thing where I was like, what? Odd choice, but never mind. And then, we get to the end of part 1 with the unconvincing Wirrn drop-in, which I think is, at least it's supposed to be just a carapace, so we forgive it, but it's a decent enough cliffhanger as a kind of shock moment. So yeah. So then, any other thoughts from either of you on episode 1 that I haven't covered or that you wanted to add?
Not quite.
Well, if there is anything, go ahead.
Well, you kind of covered everything I wanted to say, so I definitely agree with you. Like, I do like Harry being an airhead, like with him touching stuff he's not really supposed to, but it's kind of part of his charm.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see how that would annoy people, but it doesn't really annoy me.
No, it's fine.
And Sarah's being headstrong, but she doesn't always think things through, and she has a sharp tongue, like you said, with the whole spitting in the eye thing.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to love Sarah Jane as a character, though, generally. It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, she's funny.
Awesome. Okay. Well, did you want to just add anything to start us through part 2 then, Abbie, maybe? I can do it if not.
Well, yeah, I think you should do it.
Not a problem. As I said, we pick up straight where we left off, a little bit of a repeat of the cliffhanger. And I said, I actually, this is a random note, and it's similar to weird things that I noticed, but I like the uniform design on Wirrn and thus all of the Nerva inhabitants. Just a costuming note for some reason, just me being weird.
I like it because they could have just gone really simple and just gone all white, but they didn't. And the placement of the color is kind of interesting. So it kind of it
invokes Star Trek for me, that they're kind of division colors that are like yellow, red, green.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
It's almost like the different colors are like their specialist like subject or something.
Yeah, I think that's deliberate. Like it's command, medical, engineering, whatever. So yeah, there's a great moment. I don't know if either of you guys caught when Wirrn is helping to revive Sarah Jane, when she really struggles with the sort of metal crown prop that she's putting on her. Like she can't balance it. It's just like one of those things where you see things that they kept in the in the times before you could really edit all that quickly, and it's just odd, funny to watch. I like the story idea that language has changed to some degree, so that they immediately recognize that these people are what they call regressives because they speak very differently and their language is a little bit exaggerated and heightened.
It's nice.
I think that this whole thing with Sarah being, she's either dead or not dead, we'll try to save her. I think that's basically the equivalent in part 2 of like, this is very much a perfunctory, we need some kind of threat to solve here, and we're plotting out, 4 episodes because we haven't yet got into the actual alien invasion. So it's unfortunate, but I guess, it's not overly offensively in your face or anything. So it's fine. And we get introduced to Noah. It's the only time that we mention that's not his real name. His real name is Lazar, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
They mention it once and never again. Odd.
Yeah.
I like the explanation they gave, that they were visited by creatures and that led to the system's failure, which led to them kind of oversleeping. Although it does make me question how long the Wirrn have been on there. Although saying that, I mean, I suppose if you want to stretch, it could be a different species entirely that caused that, and then who knows?
I mean, that's actually a really good point, because as we kind of find out later in the episode, whenever the Wirrn infect anyone, like, it seems to happen very quickly. So it does kind of beg the question of how is it taking them this long to do anything? If, as the plot kind of implies, they've been on the ship as long as the people have.
Well, I mean, the whole point is it takes you through. The Queen is what visits the thing first. The cryo chamber that she attacks is the engineer guy. She infects him at some point, at any given point, he wakes up and he kind of, they now have his knowledge, so he is the one that goes to the systems and ends up chewing through cables as he mutates or whatever. So it's weird if you think about it, but I guess, you're setting up a mystery, so that's good.
Also, I know it's such a generic thing to mention, but oh my god, the fact that it's green bubble wrap.
Yeah.
I've said it's unfortunate, but it really is just a green sleeping bag turning a handle the next scene, isn't it? Really?
It's kind of iconic at this point, though.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is not long after we've had the maggots from the Green Death, which didn't look that different, you know?
Yeah, and I will say, I think it's kind of a testament to the quality of the story that the terrible, like not design, but this terrible special effects of the sort of Wirrn larvae. It's still, you can completely forgive it, and it's absolutely fine because the plot itself is really intriguing.
Yeah,
and the writing sort of helps to carry it despite the visual, like the problems with the visuals.
Yeah, writing, and I think I'll get into this a bit more later, but writing and I think acting sells it as well, because everybody's acting like this is terrifying and serious, so you do believe it a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and just in general, I made the note as well. I just love the concept of, it's probably been done in sci-fi before, but I'm not fully remembering. I love the concept of just a Noah's Ark in space.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was hitting at. But yeah, it's such a good idea. It really is. And the fact that this now is what gets infected, like I said, it's one of those things where you're like, wow, Doctor Who came up with some, for all its flaws about, it's ambitious or whatever, it came up with some really damn ingenious science fiction ideas at times, you know?
Yeah.
Also, I find Lyra really likable, even at the start. I just think she's quite an intriguing character.
Yeah, she's not portrayed as being like annoying or too overly suspicious. Not like Noah is really.
Exactly, and I like the fact that she's very competent from the get-go as well. Like, you can clearly tell, like, oh, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, her name's Wirrn, by the way, not Lyra.
Why did I write Lyra? Because I'm pretty sure I say Vyra later on. Let me just double check.
The reason I remember that is that's my next note. I think that there's kind of a theme of contamination. Like, Vyra is quite close to virus. And it seems to be deliberately like, oh, humanity and all of our flaws are better than rigid caste systems, because that will turn you into like an insect hive.
Yeah.
That's what the Wirrn are about.
Interesting.
Okay, I definitely think that was for some reason just a handwriting typo, because I put Vyra in every other comment mentioning her.
Were you maybe watching what's it called, His Dark Materials, when you were making your notes? Because the lead character of that's called Lyra. So. Anyway, moving on. We get the scenes in the solar stacks where it's again, bless their heart, but it's green goo with a googly eye, isn't it? Really, just
I made this note. I think that effect, for all it's worth, I think it's quite effective in what it wants to do.
Well, I think what I've written here is what sells this moment particularly is the great music, which I almost never notice unless it's like really outstanding or really bad. But I think it built up tension really nicely here. So.
Okay, I've remembered why I got her name wrong, because I remember thinking this when her name was first mentioned, and I was just looking it up now because I'm like, why did I get it wrong? I've remembered. So when I first heard her name Vyra, it made me think of Lyra, which I'm sure is a moon. And that got me thinking of like a space, like it was all space themed, so it got me thinking of that. And the only reason I know that is because one of my favorite bands has a song called Lyra, and it's like an introduction to an album. It was meant to be like it was all meant to be about like a moon like setting or something like that. It just made me think of that. Oh, it might have been a black hole actually. It was something space related, so I just got her name confused because of that.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. So then we get the colonists, for want of a better word, asking where the technician is, and they say, where is June? To which I've said it's going to be on HBO Max in a few months. Just wait. It really was the guy's name as well. I checked. It is Dune.
Just double check. It's a constellation that lies in the northern sky, so it is a space reference. I just got it wrong.
Nerdy deep cut. Well played. I like it. I like the story idea of the creatures in the stack trapped and absorbing energy. So that's a really cool concept. That again, it tells you that even though it looks ridiculous, what it's doing is kind of like menacing. I get that Noah thinks Doctor is a threat and he zaps him, which is great. But this is one of the rare missteps of Baker's kind of quirky performance, is the comedy fall when he's stunned. It's so ridiculous. I don't know. It kind of kills the tension, but you get straight back to it, so that's good. And Noah is your typical kind of horror movie fool walking into the dark room and getting attacked. It's very much, you can imagine the people in the audience of the cinema like, don't go in there, you fool, what are you doing? it's funny to me that his version of getting attacked is getting brushed with green slime, and it made me wonder if the Wirrn were responsible for Nickelodeon in the 1990s. I do love that the Doctor just continues his sentence when he wakes up from getting shocked. So that almost again, it shows that Baker, he gets it right some more times than he does get it wrong. The kind of great bit of character of shot down mid sentence. But I like that he also selflessly rushes into action because he knows there's somebody in danger. I like that the idea that they are so compartmentalized and so stagnant. These feature people that there's no security, so that's why the Doctor and the companions aren't arrested and they can sort of freely roam the station, which also gives you a convenient reason why the story can happen, you know. So, I love the scene that comes next where they are awakening one of the guys and he reacts with fear to Noah, who at this point obviously has been infected. Says that he just saw a horrible shape. And I said that the horror tension here you might gloss over, but I really think it's very good and effective.
Yeah,
his performance really does sell that scene.
And it's again when he goes into the next line, which is, you know, Dune is here. I am Dune. It's like that is such brilliant writing and acting. I absolutely love that.
I know.
And I love that the Doctor is immediately aware what's happened. He's not on the back foot. He knows.
Because I think I was a little bit slow, but wasn't that kind of relation like to the idea that the Wirrn kind of have like a hive mind? So once he'd been infected, he was like in tune with all of that now.
That's the thing. Yeah, they mention later on, you know, that they absorb knowledge of whoever they go to. It is very much.
Yeah.
It's a hive mind thing, isn't it? So yeah, he is all of the people that have been affected, which at that point is only him and Dune. But
yeah.
It's nice that they link the progenitor, as they call it, which I keep calling the Queen because of Alien, to the missing technician and work that out. It's also cool that we get the comparison to a wasp because that, again, clues the audience into what we're dealing with. And it's a nice little touch that they say, you know, there's life patterns that repeat throughout the universe. I like the bit of dialogue about how the Doctor says, to emphasize your point, Andy, in more sort of simple terms, he says he's afraid that June's knowledge has been thoroughly digested. To which Sarah Jane replies, you know, that's not funny. Don't make jokes. And the Doctor says, I'm not making, when I tell you I'm afraid, I'm not making a joke. It's a great sort of tension moment again.
Yeah.
And then we get the character Libri, bless their heart, who aren't very long lived, who face Noah, who's now way more possessed. Noah immediately kills them. And we get the slow reveal of, my hand's trapped in bubble wrap, and that's your clip.
Yeah.
I made the note. I did say, this is kind of a negative. I do think he kind of just gave the gun up a little bit easily, especially given the fact that the very first time we see him is him freaking out over seeing Noah. I would have kind of thought he'd have been a little bit more reluctant to give the gun away, but he kind of just doesn't.
Yeah.
And then Noah's just like, oh, well, you're stupid for giving me the gun, now you're dead. But
I think, it more relates to Noah's role, though. I mean, they do specifically say he is their like top of the food chain kind of thing. So he's very much their commander, their captain, whatever you want to say. So you wouldn't want to disobey orders, and you would just immediately think, you know.
True, but at this point, everyone was already kind of suspicious that something was wrong with him. So at least in that scenario, I definitely wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, here, take my gun, creepy person.
Again, though, I think it feeds into the fact that this is a society that are so rigidly, you know, about chain of command and stuff that they're like, well, I'm not going to arrest them. It's not my job.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But I did say, going back to what I mentioned this point earlier, I said I would get back to it. I like the fact that once it kind of... Wait, what was my exact note? I'm glad that Noah started being a villain quickly, so the obvious wasn't dragged out for too long.
Yeah.
That surprised me, because I remembered that being, in my sort of memory, I remembered that lasting a little bit longer than I think it does, but yeah.
Yeah, it happens really quickly, but I like the fact that it happens quickly, because otherwise you'd spend like a good episode or so going, okay, when's he going to do something bad? We know he's the villain, what's going to happen? And they just kind of do it out of the gate, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, we don't have to sit around and wait for 20 minutes to find out if he's going to or not.
Completely. And I think that ties into my idea of that's why I like that the Doctor is, because that's the function of the character, that once this thing's happening, the Doctor's immediately on knowing exactly what it is rather than having to spend ages examining the creature and then work out what it is and how it infects people. It's just kind of like, no, just know. I'm not, you know, it's like the Earth wasp. This is what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So did you have any other thoughts on part 2, Abbie, before we move on to 3?
I do agree with you that the special effects and like the bubble wrap and stuff is well done, but it's still kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
I do like how the lighting kind of helps with the level of suspense.
Yeah.
Along with the music, like you said.
Fair
like
point.
when they're in the internals of the ship, it's dark, which increases the suspense. But when they're like in everywhere else, it's kind of like the exterior. It's brighter, so it's not as suspenseful, even though it still is. So I do kind of like that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point, actually, and it's something I subconsciously noticed and didn't really think, but you're absolutely right. Like, the stacks are kind of dark and shrouded, and that's where the monster's lair is, I guess, and yet everything else is
It's
very
cliche, but it still works.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but this is one of perhaps the first times that it's been used, but maybe that's just me ascribing things that aren't there, so, yeah. Anyway, anything else that you thought were good or bad?
The Wirrn themselves are very creepy. Even those just bubble wrap and plastic shells and stuff like that, they're very creepy.
They're a creepy idea, I think, because I'm only speaking for myself, but me as a person, I'm so creeped out by insects and stuff generally. The idea of them, it makes my skin crawl thinking of a giant version of whatever it is, you know.
I know.
So, yeah. Oh, well, cool. Fair enough. And have you covered everything as well, Andy, for part 2?
Yeah, pretty much got everything that I had written down. I did want to say, just off the back of what you just said there, I think the Wirrn are really effective as the villain of this, but kind of for my own personal reasons. It's more because I find them more fascinating than creepy.
Okay.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before in any capacity on the podcast, probably not. But when I was younger, alongside wanting to do music all the time, I also really wanted to be an entomologist because I find insects really fascinating.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So I really liked the way that they use throughout this story and how they sort of use the real life sort of biology of how insects work and make it work for sci-fi. I think it's really nicely done. And also, I don't know if this is the case, but just for my personal theory in terms of the origins of the Wirrn's design, I feel like it's very much it's called a tarantula hawk.
They do say that, don't they? That's what the doctor calls out. I think that's the specific name of the species of wasp. I think that he.
Oh, it might be that then.
Yeah.
Let me just double check the Wirrn.
I'm sure. I don't think he necessarily gives it that exact name, but that's what he's referring to when he says there's a certain genus of earth wasp that lays its eggs in a victim or whatever.
Yeah. So what the tarantula hawk does. Sorry if you don't mind me just explaining. Is basically the reason they're called that is because they hunt tarantulas.
Yeah.
They specifically tarantulas. I think they're native to Arizona, I want to say, like the deserts and stuff. But they hunt down adult tarantulas, sting them and paralyze them, and then lay their eggs in them. And then, basically the larvae eat the tarantula alive while it's paralyzed and can't do anything to stop them.
Yeah.
Bugs are very creepy but fascinating. Yeah.
And that's kind of similar to what these do, where they infect the person and then kind of the infection spreads and basically converts them alive.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't, and even the design themselves is very similar to what a tarantula hawk looks like. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were a heavy influence for it.
I think the fact that they call it out, that's probably definitely that's definitely I should say what they're going with. But weirdly enough, the specific thing you mentioned there, the tarantula hawk, my first exposure to understanding what that was is from all places. Have you seen the movie Wild Wild West? It's generally regarded as one of the worst movies ever. There's a moment in that when the main character has this is the kind of film it is, has a giant mechanical spider. It's set in the past, but it's like a steampunk mechanical spider. And the good guy heroes, Will Smith and Kevin Kline, all they have is like a flying bike. Wow, describing this is finding out really how bad it is. But anyway, and they're like, how are we going to defeat this sort of 15-foot giant mechanical spider? And they're in the Arizona desert because it's like a Western, and see this actually happening. One of these wasps kind of stinging and paralyzing the spider and laying their eggs. And that's how they get the idea to sort of fly over this mechanical spider in a bike and drop bombs. I was like, this is the weirdest movie ever, but it's taught me a little bit about entomology that I was not expecting, So yeah, just a random aside. But yeah, if you'll permit me another one just a second for nerdy reasons, I don't know for sure that they Wirrn inspired these things, but I think they may well have. And that's, of all things, the Borg from Star Trek, the nature of kind of a hive mind and being subsumed by the collective will. and the fact that they were initially intended to be insects before they realized they couldn't afford the budget for that and turned them into cyborgs. I think there's a lot.
I did not know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had this discussion with somebody on Twitter because they tried to tell me that the Borg were a ripoff of the Cybermen. And I was like, nope, they weren't, because they were originally intended to be insects. And the Cybermen were never about kind of hive mind and taking you over.
No.
It's only on watching this that I was like, there's a chance they're actually a ripoff of the Wirrn. You know? Yeah, and obviously the most obvious one, Alien. It seems like this really is the movie Alien so succinctly. You know, we're in a space station in this case rather than ship, but we're stalking through corridors and ducts and stuff, and we're trying to avoid this, very bizarre alien creature and to avoid getting infected by it before it consumes us and we become it. I was like, it's so weird to think, because if this was made after Alien, people would say, oh, you're just ripping that off. You're making a straight version of Alien. But it's made 4 years before. So it's like, wow, it's so weird. That's got to have been. And I know Ridley Scott is like English. He's from my neck of the woods. So I do wonder if any of that is like he's watched this when he was directing that movie kind of thing.
It's very much Alien, but with more insects and less xenomorph, and more Sarah Jane and less Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the xenomorph, though, it has insect-like characteristics.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It is a parasite that takes over your body, gestates, and then, fair enough, it bursts out of you rather than you becoming them. But then there is a deleted scene in the director's cut of Alien where it shows you that the people that it's captured on the ship and taken to its lair are apparently mutating into the alien eggs. So there is a bit of that in the original cut version, which they since cut out and they've abandoned. And it's like, no, the eggs are from a queen, which again, insect, but anyway, I digress. I've gone wildly off topic, so we'll get back to episode 3 of The Ark in Space and say that it starts with the really cool shots showing off the space station set, which I like as we get the voiceover playing, and I think that's a nice little bit of direction, just in the height of tension. I think the actor who plays Noah, and I'm really sorry I didn't look up his name, I should have. He's a genuinely good actor with this really bad effect. I remember watching a behind the scenes thing where he says that he had to sort of call on all of his theatre training because what he was described as like you're getting taken over and what this hand will be, and what he was kind of shown in concept art maybe and stuff was completely like horrifying and different. And then when he gets to set, he's like, well, we're just going to wrap it in bubble wrap. And then he's like, it's not what I was expecting, but I had to just play on, well, the idea of what if it really was something that was taking me over and how horrified would I be? I think he sells the lame effects and it's cool. He's fighting with his hand. Yes, I get it's very Evil Dead 2 at times, but it's a nice touch.
I made the exact same note that whilst the effect is dreadful, the acting of Noah really does help to sell the idea that it is this horrible thing that's happening and not just, oh, I got my hand trapped in my Amazon parcel.
Visited by the Kablam man, unfortunately. Yeah, no, it's good. And I like as well, it's a good acting decision that Noah's voice changes, I think, as he gets more possessed and more tortured. You can kind of tell when it's him and he's struggling, and when it's the Wirrn speaking through him, which is a really nice touch. I also think it's really, again, it's something that's been done a million times since, but I like that he struggles with pronouns. He keeps on catching that he's referring to himself as we instead of I, as the collective will of the Wirrn are taken over. And there's something really iconic and sort of Shining-esque about the line, Wirrn are here, which I think was a cool bit of horror. So, I think we literally get the line, we shall absorb the humans and Earth shall be ours, which I've said, that's nice. And it's a clear enough intent and threat. We don't question at all what these aliens' motives are because it's right there in black and white for you,
Yeah, there's no question about it.
Yeah. Again, Noah's struggle completely horrific and is sold by the actor. There's a little bit that bothered me, I think, that I made a note of here, where I think Harry is a little bit chauvinistic in this story, and it kind of concerns me.
Yeah, I made the exact note of, Harry, you sexist.
But I do think it's worth noting, though, that for all the chauvinism that he displays, he's proven wrong every time. So it's ultimately, I mean, depending on how you look at it, it's ultimately more Wirrn and Sarah Jane who saved the day than almost anyone else. Except the poor technician guy at the end, but that's a different story. So, I really like I know it's a bad effect objectively, but I love the effect of Noah's spreading transformation and how it's like half of a Wirrn costume to him, and he's got the kind of the arm and everything. It's really cool. It's a very striking image that I think sticks with you, especially if you're younger. I think it's very behind the sofa. I don't. This is again very deep dive, and forgive me, but I don't know if either of you know that there's actually a really hard cut here because they deleted a scene, which bugs me no end.
Really?
There was a scene here when they first see him where Noah begs to be euthanized because he's transforming, and that's where you get the reveal that him and Wirrn, he's appealing to her on a more personal level.
Yeah.
But because that scene's deleted, you just get a hard cut from the reveal of Noah being more taken over to just a door slamming and a gun on the floor, which comes out of nowhere because you don't have that scene.
I did wonder why that was a bit weird.
Yeah, that scene was deleted. It doesn't even exist anywhere, which I hate. That bugs me.
I'm imagining maybe it was deemed a bit too dark.
I was just going to say, Philip Hinchcliffe, I think, was a producer at the time, said that, no, this is way too dark for kids. We can't have it. But it still kind of annoys me that it was destroyed rather than like, well, chuck it as a deleted scene on DVD or something, maybe, Obviously, they wouldn't know that in the 70s, but yeah. So, yeah, that's how you get Wirrn then having to explain they were pair bonded because it's a reference back to how close he seemed when he was begging her to kill him in that scene. It's a shame. So, on a completely different topic from all that seriousness, the next two technicians that are awoken are called Lysett and Rogan. So I just call them Joe and Seth. That's a reference to any comedy fans, but it might not mean much if you're not. So, the Doctor knows. I love this. If they fail awakening everyone, if they fail the awakening or whatever, then everyone dies in fear. But if they all, if they'll all die, then only those 6 will know. If that makes sense, I've written it really badly, but yeah, when she says we're going to keep waking everyone up, and the Doctor says don't, because if everyone's awake and we don't defeat the Wirrn, we'll all die in agony. But if it's just us 6 that know about it, then at least it's the kindest way to people that will die and not have a clue. The description of the Wirrn is really cool and clever as we get into it. I like that it says specifically their lungs are adapted to live in space, which is cool.
I like the whole sequence of them kind of like analyzing the Wirrn.
Yes. Yeah, completely. I completely agree. Yeah, and again, it's a bad sort of effect of the corpse thing, but it's nice that they go back to something from 2 episodes ago to actually explore it a bit, which is neat. I love the bit about it used to be believed that the eye retained its last image after death, and we weren't far off. It's a nice little way of explaining a potentially sci-fi-ish idea with the Cortex machine, and yes, it would come up again later in the Crimson Horror, I should say. Sorry. So that's cool. The Doctor, I said, I get what they're doing here. The Doctor's mind melding with the pupa and the machine. He's bragging about it but also he can't be interrupted, which sets up a little bit of danger. He's linking his mind to the Wirrn and could stay part of it forever. It's one of those things where, again, I said it sets up little minor threats throughout the story, and this is one of the more effective, I think, kind of, what could happen here? We do get the line as well that's become famous, I think. Human beings are quite my favorite species from the Doctor. Worth noting. I think that's nice as a human.
Yeah, it's a very lovely line.
Yeah. It's cool that then, because we're seeing things through their eyes, we get the POV shots of the Wirrn traveling through space. It's a really cool way of summarizing their journey without showing us it, because it's showing us in a different scene, which is nice. Again, loving the effect of Noah's possession, the fact that it's spreading a little bit more. Unfortunately, the bubble wrap sort of maggot attacking the others is not so good. The effect of shooting off the outer skin is really bad CSO. Like, it's a cool idea that you're taking off the outer layer and then the sort of creature inside's coming out of it, but I just think it was a stretch too far for what they could do with the effects. So that's a shame. Again, I've mentioned it was the electricity from the laser weapon that killed them, and that's clever. They now have a weakness to use. Again,
I just like the fact that it's not only did they have a weapon to use, but it was a weapon that was set up already in the episode, which I always like when something does that, because it's smart storytelling. It's that you inadvertently give the solution early in the story, and then you come back to it, and you can go, "Oh, okay, I like that." Yeah.
It's because it's had a function, though. It's not like what they call Chekhov's gun, which is like if you introduce a gun in the first act, it will be fired by
it's going to have to be fired by the end.
And it's kind of like, well, it's only there for that purpose, but we wouldn't think of the laser weapon as that. We would just think, it was a bit of tension to give you a bit in that episode, so that's nice. I also think, yes, it is clever that they think to reverse the transmat, and it's a good way to get them past Noah. It's also cool that leads into a power failure, because it's related to what you were saying, Abbie, that you need darkness to increase your tension a bit. So naturally, the power fails and life support and everything stays on, but the lights go out. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But although it does say that they're stopping, the oxygen is kind of draining, which gives you that kind of race against the clock tension as well.
Mhm.
The egg sacs that you see in the stacks are very much reminiscent of the first Alien to me. And Noah creeping on the Doctor is good, as is his kind of the effect of the transformation. That's how far it's taken him over is fantastic up until the very last kind of he just fades into the plasticky costume.
Yeah, it's so. That cliffhanger was really effective until that effect happened, and then I was like, "Oh no, that was working really well until you did that."
It's unfortunate, but it's because they need to get the full costume in for the.
Exactly. And I think I mentioned this. We might have glossed over it. I don't know, but I genuinely do think the design of the adult Wirrn is a very cool design, given the limited costuming they could do.
Yeah, it's good that it's not as obviously man in suit, because I mean you can see what it is. It is a person in a suit, and then they've stuck the face to the front. But it's
and
still
then the bottom kind of looks like, you know, those sort of like not compressible is not the word, but you know those like long like fabric tubes you can get for like a dog or a baby to crawl through, and then it's like the ones that spring out when you open it.
Yes,
it's basically a brown one of those on the bottom.
Yeah, that might be what they used. It wouldn't surprise me.
It looked like it, because whenever the adult Wirrn moves, it sort of bounces a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the way it moves. It does seem to kind of like, you know, a person trying to walk with both their legs tied together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, did either of you have any other thoughts on part 3?
It's just a very good continuation. I think all 4 parts do a really good job of building the tension, building the mystery. Obviously, it's sort of more answers are given the later in we go. But just in general, I think the pacing's really quite good, and it doesn't really waste any of the screen time that it does have.
Completely. And you like the episode as well, Abbie, yeah?
Yeah. The story is very solid and starting to like reach the high point, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Gradually starting to like put the pieces into place.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of ramping up tension to right to that point. It doesn't sort of go up and down. It's just up, and then bang. Awesome. So into part 4, I've said, yes, the full Wirrn Noah is a little disappointing, but it is an ambitious costume, as we were touching on, Andy, in fairness. Yeah. And it is still
it's definitely ambitious.
Yeah, it is still better than several of the classic Doctor Who monsters. I mean, we've all seen the Web Planet, I assume, you know?
I think the top part, like with the legs and the face and stuff, I think that works really well.
Yeah, completely. It's a bit of a shame that they're not, you can see that it doesn't really have a lot of dexterousness. There's, the hands are obviously just attached kind of almost as they don't really have much going. But anyway, I love that there's a bit of complex morality introduced here, because it's said that we're not doing this because humans destroyed their breeding colonies, and that they were a peaceful species that would use cattle before, but now they're going to use humans and evolve into the most advanced species as a kind of act of revenge. That's a really cool touch that the episode didn't need to do it, but it's such a cool concept.
It gives them more depth as a villain as well, which is weird considering they're just giant insects, really. But it makes them more relatable isn't the word, but it does make them more compelling, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that feeds into the idea that we as a human race, I think at that point had kind of lost our way. That Wirrn even claims, well, it's genetically impossible what you're doing. She can't even understand the idea of taking other ideas and things into consideration, maybe is the metaphor. But she's starting to gradually kind of wake up to that concept as we go on.
Yeah.
And the Wirrn taking the sum of human knowledge is it's the highest cool idea of writing and idea conception and how you would set up that threat. So that's good.
It's a very easy way to get around the question of how would the Wirrn know how any of this works as well.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, but it does also have, like I said, parallels in nature and stuff that make it make sense, which is cool. I don't love that Harry sort of cowardly wants to go in the TARDIS, but I get that scene's there because at least it's nice that they acknowledge they could, rather than just ignoring that fact. I love, obviously, the jelly baby stuff. The Fourth Doctor, it became his kind of catchphrase. But they also say, we can't let the Wirrn eat these humans like jelly babies, which is cool. And it sums up the Doctor perfectly that he says it would be too immoral to just run away and leave the sleeping people. Awesome. I love that Sarah is the one that solves the issue by remembering the transport ship as a kind of power source.
Very clever.
And it's very awesome that she's the one that Sarah volunteers because of being the only one small enough to squeeze through and take the cable. She's so badass.
Yeah.
I mean, you say she's...
I made a couple of notes around this bit. I think we glossed over it, but I do really like the scene of Noah trying to basically convince Wirrn to leave so that she'll live.
Yes.
I think that's really sweet, and it kind of sets up what's going to happen later on in the story of kind of his kind of redemption arc. As short as it is, but I do like that bit. And then my note literally just says, "Listen to Sarah" in all caps, and then in the next one is just, "Oh, and that's why."
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, as I was going to say though, as much as you say Sarah Jane's not Ripley, she's acting very Ripley-like in this moment when she's
yes,
she's the one taking the fight to them through the corridors and things. It's really cool. Again, in darker rooms, related to Abbie's point, the Wirrn costume actually doesn't look too bad. I think it works better if it's not in heavy sort of bright light. Sarah Jane having to move quietly through the vents past the monster is very familiar. It happens in Alien and then every other horror movie since. I could probably bring up.
I do like the tension though, and like Sarah's reaction when she sees it outside the vent is genuine, and like you can feel the tension. Yeah,
cool. Awesome. Yeah, then that scene that, again, pretty famous, the Doctor faking being mean to Sarah to motivate her. It's iconic, but it also foreshadows future complex Doctor dynamics, like the Seventh Doctor being a little bit more manipulative or whatever. And it is nice that it still culminates in, "I'm very proud of you," though, which you do feel that. Again, good acting makes you feel that way.
It's probably one of my favourite Doctor companion moments of the entire show. It's so sweet. Even though he's saying these awful things by the end, it is such a sweet moment. And just the look on the Doctor's face when he just, like, Sarah's angry at him and sort of, like, you know, refusing his help, and then he just sort of looks at her with those, like, that big grin and those cheeky eyes. It's so sweet.
It's not just that, it's the fact that you feel, like I said, his delivery of the line, "I'm so very proud of you." You're like, oh, bless you, I feel that, you know what I mean? It could have come off so, oh, yeah, now you say that, but it's very good. And again, the increased tension in this scene when the Doctor says, you know, it's quiet now, but they might be planning something, and we're safe unless they chew through the floor. Which then leads to Sarah Jane being grabbed by the legs, which I've said is fantastic, but the sound design undercuts it because it sounds like she's being attacked by a group of laughing chipmunks.
Yes!
It's what are we doing here? So weird. The Doctor obviously pleads to the humanity in Noah by describing the Earth and begging him to lead the swarm out into space, which, again, important for later, but also a really nice character beat. Describing the Wirrn as climbing the funnel and using the rocket boosters to burn them is a really cool idea that the sci-fi nerd in me loves again. The little toy Wirrn that we see outside are hilariously charming. Like, they're clearly just little tiny figures, but it's so cool. I don't know if that's just me. Did you guys think anything of that or not? You know the scene?
So just like how you asked us, and both of us were just like, I
know it's bad, but I just find it so charming. Like, they cut to the outside of the shuttle, which obviously is a toy within itself. It's not. It's going to be a model. And you have this little model Wirrn, and I was like, oh, bless. I get what you're going for.
I'd have one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Bless. Then, again, cool writing. They set the shuttle to. They're told to set the shuttle to auto and escape to the Ark, but the Doctor's actually planning to sacrifice himself. And yet Seth Rogen here heroically takes his place. It's a very prominent Doctor Who trope. Always appreciated. Very nice. It's a weird but fantastic touch that there's actual silence in space when the ship takes off.
Yeah, there's no like big explosion sound or anything.
Yeah, but there would be. That's something every bit of sci-fi gets wrong. And I was like, wow, it's such a weird decision that Doctor Who was like, no, it's silent, it's a vacuum. Just for all how bad the effects look. It's like,
especially given that obviously more modern Doctor Who, like immediately an example that came to mind was in The Poison Sky when the Santaran ship blows up, and that's like a massive loud explosion. Yeah. Whereas in this, like, when was this story? 1975, I want to say. Yes. Like they actually did do it in silence. It's like you'd have thought they'd have actually had the knowledge to stick to this in future episodes.
Yeah, well, every bit of sci-fi doesn't do it. So, you know, famously the exploding Death Star, you know, it's the loudest.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
it should be silent. You know, but anyway, it's so cute and so nice that it was Noel leading the swarm into the shuttle. It said, and when they're unsure, he actually gives the goodbye via a message, and then the Doctor's response to that he showed more than a vestige of human spirit. That is my takeaway from this whole episode. I think that it comes full circle to this kind of hopeful and optimistic ending, which is all about, accepting differences and what everybody can contribute. And ultimately, it's all about the kind of love for each other, in my eyes. So
I can vibe with that. I'd completely forgotten that Noah actually did that, so it was almost like a genuine surprise for me when that happened.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he actually gets a bit of a redemption. That's kind of cool. And again, I think the performance really does sell it. Like the voice anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like the fact that he gets to do that. I also really liked Sarah's reaction to when she thinks that the Doctor might have died.
Yeah. And his just completely not even acknowledging the seriousness of that and just no, don't worry about it. I'm here. But I also love. I didn't even write this note, and I love the cheekiness of, oh no, I've got to do it, Doctor. You don't want trouble with the Space Technicians Union because it's my job, kind of thing. It's such it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liner action hero almost moment.
Yeah.
And then just finally, obviously the transmat's faulty, so the Doctor, Sarah, and Harry are beaming straight to the Sontaran experiment. Because this is that run of episodes that all take place immediately following each other. So
yeah,
good. Well, I've got to head out in 5-10 minutes. So do you have any last thoughts on episode 4? Then we'll get the conclusions out the way.
I just want to say I'm glad that the jelly babies were in it.
Yeah,
that's kind of an iconic Fourth Doctor thing. So it was nice that they got it in at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you, Abbie?
I do like the bittersweet ending. Like you said, Noah sacrificing himself. It shows a bit of humanity and redemption and stuff.
Yeah,
it's kind of bittersweet.
Awesome. So we'll just chime in with our conclusions and score then. Did you want to go first, Abbie, or would you rather one of us does so that you can get the gist, or not?
Yeah, you guys can go first, so that way I can get the gist of it.
I'll let you go first then, Andy, if you don't mind, and then we'll go to Abbie, and then I'll finish up.
Yeah, sure. Let me just get to my final bit. Ooh. So my summary was, The Ark in Space is a very fun and concise story that utilises most of its runtime extremely well. There's some great dialogue and amazing performances make up for some of the budget and effect issues. An extremely enjoyable serial, one that I have rewatched a fair few times, and I gave it overall a 9 out of 10.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, did you want to go then, Abbie, and give your conclusion and score?
Well, like Andy said, the special effects are a little cheesy, but sometimes it's distracting from the story. But overall, it's a good Fourth Doctor introduction because Robot introduced him, but not really his era.
Yeah,
and I do like the chemistry between all the characters, especially the companions and the Doctor.
Yeah,
the Wirrn are suitably creepy, as you all pointed out, with the alien parallels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'd probably give it an 8 or 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, so you say which of the two would you prefer us to put on the record? We going 8 or 8.5?
Maybe 8.5.
8.5. So that's an 8.5 and a 9. Okay, so I'll give you my thoughts. Excuse me, I'm just going to read what I wrote. I said, wow, if I was ever asked to sum up Doctor Who, or at least what it means to me in a single story, then this is it. Just perfectly representative of the show at its best. Is that just my nostalgia? Since it's the story that first grabbed me, am I biased in thinking it has that potential for anybody? These are rhetorical questions. I don't even care. I know in my logical brain there are flaws, but sometimes something just speaks to your very soul. Sometimes when you fall in love, you don't see or care about flaws. All I see is writing genius, acting brilliance, quality direction, and a production mounting an ambitious sci-fi horror movie on a shoestring 1975 TV budget. In my eyes, the best it could possibly be. Iconic, influential, effective, and entertaining. Indomitable. Yeah. And I gave it 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Which overall gives The Ark in Space 9.16 recurring, so roughly about 9.2.
Nice. That's pretty good.
We'll call that a 9.2. So 9.16, 9.2. Awesome. I think, if I'm right, just let me double check that. So 9.2. It's just below Torchwood Children of Earth, which got a 9.3.
Nice.
So close. Excellent. Well, for argument's sake, for curiosity, if anyone's wondering, Will did send me his scores, as I said, for the whole lot, and he also agreed with me and gave The Ark in Space 10 out of 10. So I shall have to get him on instead of you, Andy, because he agrees more. Oh, I just, yeah, I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that it's a very good score.
It's such a good story. It's really,
fantastic,
really good.
isn't it?
It's one of my absolute favorite classic stories that I have seen.
Yeah.
There's a reason I've rewatched it a few times, even before doing the podcast.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about kind of what it means to me, then go and watch my Meet the Hosts video that's on this channel, where I explain. I think it is very much one of the, if not the very thing that kind of got me watching Doctor Who. So it's very important to me. So anyway, that'll close us out, I think, for the day. Just time to ask you, Abbie, have you got any last thoughts or anything you want to plug, or where we can find you on social media and the like?
Well, besides Twitter and stuff like that, I'm mostly active on that one, but not really anywhere else per se. I'm not really on Facebook or Instagram or anything. I'm kind of on Tumblr as Abs World, which is all lowercase ABBZ World.
That's so cool. Awesome. And
yeah, I like the letter Z.
Awesome. As we've mentioned, it's Abbie Green, who is at Whovian Girl with a U19 on Twitter. A good follower, definitely recommend, especially if you're a kind of a Doctor Who fan or anything along those lines. Thank you very much for coming. You've been a fantastic guest. It's been very nice.
Thank you very much
to meet you.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Awesome. Anytime you want to talk Doctor Who, just get in touch, and that'll be nice. And Andy, you quickly want to explain where the people can find some more Kaylee Manoogle content?
You can find me at AndyKemp1996 on Twitter, or ideally you can go to my YouTube channel, which is just Andrew Kemp. I post songs, I post vlogs. I actually filmed a new song cover last night, which will hopefully be getting edited at some point in the next couple of days when I can find the motivation to do so. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And Mike.
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm Michael Wilson. I'm at Ian Mike Wilson on Twitter, Michael Wilson on Facebook and Instagram. Not that I go on them much. And I have my own YouTube channel, just Michael Wilson, and I'm obviously running the Hit or Miss podcast channel and Twitter account now, as well. So hit me up on anything, anytime you want to chat, especially if it's anything nerdy. And yeah, just join us again next week when we will be, we're not 100% sure on the guest, but we're thinking we'll be joined by the returning Alex Spiddleston, fingers crossed. But we do know that we're reviewing the story Asylum of the Daleks.
Which I am excited for.
Yeah, and if Andy's very good, I might let him take the lead on the review and everything in that one.
I have, even prior to this, what's going to be the episode of the podcast, I have seen Asylum of the Daleks a lot of times, so hopefully I should be able to confidently run us through it.
Awesome. So come and join the Souffle Boys next week when we'll be discussing that one. So, and yeah, thanks again, Abbie. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for gracing our podcast. And
thank you for gracing my life with that laugh.
Yeah, you are
truly a great laugh.
Bless you.
Your life is pretty cool too.
I don't know if you've ever watched Trixie Mattel or Katya on YouTube, but I very much have a Trixie Mattel laugh. If you have any idea who that is,
nice.
Trixie Mattel, the drag queen.
Yes.
Oh, bless. Never mind. We're almost full circle. Do you want to make a quick Kylie reference before we head out?
That's funny.
Oh, it's in the contract, people. Hashtag it's in the contract.
Well, enjoy the episode, everyone, and we'll be back next week. Take care, you two. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye.